When the son of an old art restorer was shoved onto the tracks in the New York subway, no one could have guessed that within the hour, the entire city would be looking for a man known only as the Shadow. A man who had vanished from all official records 10 years earlier. A man whose name was still whispered in the hushed corridors of federal intelligence agencies. A man who had sworn never to kill again. But when your 10-year-old son falls onto the subway tracks just seconds before a train pulls in, oaths cease to matter. All that remains is instinct, fury, and a set of skills impossible to shake off. This man wasn't born to restore ancient frescoes. He was born to be a weapon in the darkness. And today, the darkness had come back for him. Before we continue, please check to see if you're subscribed to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching this video from. My name is Victor Vic Nolan. I'm 44 years old. For the last 10 years, I've worked as a restorer of religious paintings and artifacts in New York City. My workshop is in an old brownstone on Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village, about a 5-minute walk from the West 4th Street subway station. It's a small space on the ground floor. The windows look out onto a quiet courtyard. The air smells of turpentine, linseed oil, and old wood. The walls are covered with photos of icons and murals I've restored over the years. It's quiet, painstaking work, demanding patience and precision. Every day, I arrive at the studio at 8:00 a.m., put on my old lab coat, switch on the desk lamp, and work until 6:00 p.m. The jobs come sometimes from museums, sometimes from private collectors, and sometimes from churches restoring their historic interiors. I don't advertise or run ads. Clients come by referral. He does good work, meticulous, and his rates are fair. That's enough. I live with my son Leo in a 2-bedroom apartment in the Lower East Side. It's a loud, working-class neighborhood, but familiar. Our building is a 6-story pre-war apartment block on Grand Street. We're on the 4th floor. 2 rooms, a kitchen, a bathroom. Nothing extra. Leo sleeps in the main bedroom. I sleep on the pull-out couch in the smaller room that doubles as my study. The walls are lined with art books, reproduction albums, and folders of sketches. Banks of different-sized brushes stand on the windowsill. The smell of paint is so ingrained in the walls that it never truly dissipates. Leo is used to it. He says it smells like Dad's work. Leo is 10, in the 4th grade at PS 110 on Lewis Street. He's a good kid, smart, curious, calm. Dark hair, gray eyes, slender build. He looks like his mother. His mother, my wife Annabelle, died 6 years ago. A car accident on the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. A tractor-trailer lost control on the slick road and jackknifed into oncoming traffic. Annabelle died instantly. Leo was 4 then. He barely remembers her. Sometimes he asks what she was like. I tell him stories from our life, show him photographs. He listens carefully, nodding, but I can see in his eyes that they're just stories about a stranger. He doesn't feel the same pain that I do. Maybe that's for the best. After Annabelle's death, I raised Leo alone. I made breakfast, walked him to school, helped with homework, went to parent-teacher conferences. I worked at the studio during the day, coming home exhausted in the evening, but always made time to talk to him about his day, his friends, and whatever interested him. Leo loves baseball. He plays first base for the school team. He's fast, agile, and has a good arm. On weekends, we go to Yankee Stadium to watch games. It's our tradition. We buy tickets in the bleachers, eat hot dogs, and shout with the crowd. In those moments, I feel like life is normal, simple, real. Leo never asked about my past. He saw the old scars on my hands, my chest, and my back. Once, he asked where they came from. I answered briefly, "Service, the army, a long time ago." He nodded and didn't press. Kids know when their parents don't want to talk about something. Leo is a smart boy. He understands that every person has parts of their life best left unsaid. I'm grateful to him for that silence, for accepting me as I am now. A restorer, a widowed father, a man who restores beauty damaged by time and conflict. But the past never truly lets go. It sits inside, like shrapnel under the skin. Every night, the same dreams return. Damascus, 2014. A burning museum, the smell of smoke and blood, the cries of the wounded, the sound of mortar shells exploding. The operation was supposed to be simple. Extract artifacts from a war zone. Protect cultural heritage. But everything went wrong. Betrayal. An ambush. My team died, one after another. I was the last one standing. I fired until I ran out of ammunition. Then I fought, hand to hand. I ran through the burning streets, clutching an ancient glass artifact I was supposed to save. I reached the evacuation point, but the artifact was lost in the chaos. I lost it. I lost my people, and I lost faith in what I was doing. I wake up at 3 a.m., drenched in a cold sweat. My heart pounds, my hands shake. I get up, go to the kitchen, and drink cold water straight from the faucet. I stand by the window, looking at the city skyline at night. Sparse lights in the windows of neighboring buildings, the sound of traffic on the Manhattan Bridge, the distant rumble of a subway train. The quiet of the apartment presses against my ears. Leo is sleeping in the next room. I try not to wake him. I stand alone in the dark, waiting for my heart to slow down. Then I go back to bed. I finally fall asleep toward dawn, when the sky begins to lighten outside. That is why, when someone shoved Leo onto the tracks in the New York subway this morning, something inside me broke. Completely. Irrevocably. The switch flipped. It was a routine morning. Tuesday, October 23rd. Cold, 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Overcast, with a fine drizzle. Typical New York autumn. I woke up at 7 a.m. As usual. I made breakfast, oatmeal with honey, tea, and cheese sandwiches. I woke up Leo. He got up reluctantly, rubbing his eyes and yawning. A typical morning for a 10-year-old who doesn't want to go to school. He dressed slowly, ate his oatmeal in silence, and gathered his backpack. I checked his planner, textbooks, and notebooks. Everything was there. We left the house at 7:30 a.m. It's about a 25-minute subway ride to his school. We walked the 5 minutes to the East Broadway station. Leo chatted about the Yankees game he watched on TV last night, telling me how Aaron Judge hit a grand slam in the top of the ninth. His voice was animated, his eyes sparkling. I listened, nodding and smiling. I loved these morning conversations. They were simple, honest, and real. No lies, no secrets. Just a father and son heading to school in the morning. We went down into the subway. The F train, the 6th Avenue line. The platform was packed with people. Rush hour. Everyone rushing to work, to school, to their appointments. The familiar, ingrained smell of the underground. A mix of human sweat, metal, and electricity. The noise of voices, the clack of heels on the tile, the announcement over the loudspeaker. Leo held my hand. We stood near the edge of the platform, waiting for the train. The sign showed 2 minutes. A crowd was pressed around us. Men in business suits, women with shopping bags, students with backpacks, ordinary New Yorkers rushing about their business. No one paid attention to anyone else. Everyone was absorbed in their phone, their thoughts, their life. The anonymous city. A city where you can vanish into the crowd in a second. I felt it before I understood it. An instinct honed over years of service. A sense of danger that couldn't be logically explained. Something was wrong. Someone was standing too close, too tense. I turned around. Behind us was a man in his mid-30s. Average height, solid build, dark jacket, black knit cap, hands in his pockets. His face was expressionless, but his eyes were cold, focused. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking at Leo. 1 second. He took a step forward. A sudden movement. He shoved Leo hard in the back with both hands. Powerful, deliberate. Leo lost his balance, falling forward. The edge of the platform. The tracks, 7 feet down. A scream tore from his throat. Short, terrified. A child's cry. Time slowed down. It always did in critical moments. My brain sped up. The world around me decelerated. I saw every detail. Leo falling, his arms outstretched. The people around us freezing, their mouths open, though the sound hadn't reached my ears yet. The man in the black hat turning around, starting to walk into the crowd. The sign flashing. Train approaching. 1 minute. I didn't think. My body acted on its own. I jumped down onto the tracks, landing next to Leo. He was lying between the rails, crying, unable to get up. His right knee was bruised from the fall. I grabbed him under the arms and hauled him up. I heard the roar of the approaching train. I felt the vibration in the rails. I saw the headlight beam in the tunnel. 30 seconds, maybe less. The people on the platform were screaming. Someone was pointing down. Someone was yelling for the conductor, but the train wouldn't stop in time. I knew it. Too fast, too short a distance. I shoved Leo toward the edge of the platform. There's a shallow recess under the edge, a maintenance niche about 16 inches deep. Enough to hide in. I pushed Leo in, pressing myself on top of him, shielding him with my body. Seconds. The train roared into the station, the thunder of metal, the shriek of brakes. Light flooded everything. The cars rushed past, inches from my back. The wind tore at my clothes. The smell of hot metal and electricity. Leo screamed beneath me, but I held him tightly against the niche wall. The train stopped. The doors opened. People streamed out, yelling, pointing down. I stood up, pulling Leo out of the niche. He was shaking all over, crying, clinging to me. I picked him up, holding him up to the edge of the platform. Hands reached down, helping to pull both of us up. We were back on the platform. A crowd surrounded us. Everyone was talking at once. Someone was calling the paramedics. Someone else was recording on their phone. I sat on the floor, pressing Leo against my chest. He sobbed, burying his face in my shoulder. I stroked his head, whispering, "It's okay, buddy. It's okay. We're safe." My heart was hammering like crazy. Adrenaline surged through my blood. My hands trembled. But I was alive. Leo was alive. That's what mattered. I looked around, searching for the man in the black cap. He was gone, vanished into the crowd. A professional disappearance. No one even noticed that he was the one who pushed the kid. Everyone thought it was an accident. The boy slipped and fell. His father heroically saved him. A story for the evening news. Touching, dramatic. But I knew it wasn't an accident. I saw his eyes. I saw the deliberate movement. I saw how he disappeared immediately after the shove. It was an attempted murder. The target was either Leo, or it was a warning to me. 5 minutes later, the paramedics arrived. They checked Leo. A bruised right knee, scraped palms, and shock. Nothing serious. They offered to take him to the hospital for a full checkup. I declined, saying I would take him to our doctor later. The medics reluctantly agreed, leaving a phone number in case we needed help. A subway official came over, a man in his 50s in a uniform jacket with a radio on his belt. "What happened?" he asked. I explained. He took down my information and said he would request the security camera footage. I asked for a copy of the recordings. He looked at me surprised. "That's impossible," he said. "The footage is for official use only, by police request." I nodded, not pressing the issue. I know how the system works. I wouldn't get anywhere fast officially. But I had other ways. Ways I hadn't used in 10 years. Ways I had hoped to forget forever. I carried Leo out of the subway. The rain was still drizzling outside. It was cold. Leo clung to me, trembling, not from cold, but from fear. I hailed a cab. I gave the driver our home address. The driver, a young guy in his 20s, looked at us in the rearview mirror, seeing my wet clothes and my terrified child. "What happened, he asked. "Accident in the subway," I answered briefly. He nodded and didn't ask anything else, driving us home in silence. At home, I helped Leo undress, settled him on the couch, covered him with a blanket, and made him hot tea with raspberry jam. Leo drank in small sips. The trembling gradually stopped. Color returned to his face. He looked at me with wide eyes. "Dad, what was that? Who pushed me?" I sat beside him and hugged him. "I don't know yet, Leo, but I will find out. I promise." He pressed against me. "I'm scared, Dad." "I know, but I won't let anyone hurt you. Never. Understand?" He nodded. "You're a superhero, Dad. You saved me right in front of the train, like in a movie." I smiled bitterly. "Not a superhero, Leo, just your dad." But deep inside, I knew the truth. This morning, the restorer, Victor Nolan, had died. The man I was 10 years ago had returned. The man they called the Shadow. When Leo fell asleep on the couch, exhausted by stress, I got up. I went to my room, closed the door, opened the closet, and took down a box from the top shelf. A metal box, sealed with tape, covered in dust. I hadn't opened it in 10 years. I had sworn never to open it again. But oaths mean nothing when someone tries to kill your child. I tore off the tape and opened the box. Inside were the things I'd hidden 10 years ago when I left the Sentinel department. A classified ID badge, a photo of my younger self in uniform. Name, Victor Nolan. Rank, Senior Operative, Ghost Team. Beneath the ID was a knife in a black sheath, a tactical folding knife, German-made. A Makarov pistol with 2 spare magazines. A radio with an encrypted channel. A patch with a team emblem. Black cloth. A silver embroidered symbol. A silhouette of a man dissolving into the darkness. Below the symbol, the Latin inscription, Sentinel, the Ghost Team. And below that, the motto in English, Protect Culture, Serve in Shadow. I picked up the patch, examining it in the lamplight. How many years had passed? How many operations? How many lives saved? How many lives taken? All in the name of protecting cultural heritage. A noble goal, dirty methods. That's how it had always been. That's how it always would be. The Sentinel Department was created in 2007 by a closed executive order. Officially, we didn't exist in the records of the National Endowment for the Arts or the structure of the FBI or Homeland Security, nor in any budget reports. Funding came through private foundations and back channels. The personnel consisted of 72 individuals, 6 teams of 12 operatives. Each team specialized in a different area. The first team protected museums and libraries during natural disasters. The second guarded archaeological digs from looters. The third recovered stolen artifacts from abroad. The fourth exposed forgeries in the black art market. The fifth protected restorers and art historians in conflict zones. The sixth team, the Ghost team, the Shadows team, carried out special operations, the ones that could never be spoken of aloud. The liquidation of artifact traffickers linked to terrorist groups, sabotage in smugglers' warehouses, the elimination of corrupt officials selling off national treasures. Dirty work, necessary work. I served in the Ghost team for 8 years, from 2008 to 2016. I started as an operative and ended as a senior agent. I commanded 5 people, all top-class professionals, snipers, demolition experts, lockpicking specialists, hackers, medics. We were like the fingers on one hand. Each knew their role, each trusted the other with their life. In 8 years, we completed 37 operations: the US, Ukraine, Syria, Iraq, Egypt, Libya. Each operation lasted from a few days to 3 months. Each was classified. Each was deadly. We lost 4 people over those years. The first died in Aleppo from a sniper's shot. The second was killed in an ambush in Libya. The third died of wounds after an explosion in Mosul. The fourth, the only woman on the team, died in Damascus. That was the operation that changed everything. The civil war in Syria was at its peak. Damascus was under siege. The National Museum of Damascus was in a combat zone. It housed artifacts thousands of years old, ancient manuscripts, statues, jewelry, an invaluable cultural heritage of humanity. Militants were planning to seize the museum, loot it, and sell the artifacts on the black market. Our mission: to evacuate the most valuable exhibits before the militants entered the building. We arrived in Damascus disguised as journalists. 5 of us: myself, Leon, Katja, Ike, and Max. We infiltrated the museum at night. The museum director, an old man named Ahmed, was waiting for us. He led us to the vault and showed us what needed to be removed first. Among the artifacts was an ancient glass vessel from the 2nd century AD, Roman craftsmanship, incredibly beautiful, clear glass with blue and gold patterns. One of the rarest pieces in the world. Ahmed said this vessel was the most important. If we saved only it, the operation would be a success. We started packing the artifacts. We worked quickly, quietly, professionally. Outside the windows, we could hear explosions, automatic gunfire. The militants were closing in. We had 2 hours until dawn. We needed to finish packing, carry the crates to the vehicle, and leave the city before the main assault began. Everything was going according to plan, until a shot rang out, and the vault window shattered. Leon fell, clutching his shoulder. Blood. A sniper. The militants found us earlier than we thought. Ike dragged Leon toward the exit. Katja grabbed her rifle and began returning fire through the broken window. I grabbed the crate with the glass vessel and ran toward the back exit. Max covered me. We ran out of the building. The vehicle was 50 yards away in an alley. Ike had already hauled Leon inside. Katja was firing as she retreated. I ran toward the vehicle with the crate. An explosion. A grenade landed nearby. The shockwave knocked me off my feet. The crate flew out of my hands, tumbling across the asphalt. The glass vessel inside. I heard something shatter. No, not that. I got up, ran to the crate, and opened it. The vessel was broken. Shards of colored glass lay amongst the packing cotton. Thousands of years of history destroyed in a second. I knelt there, holding the fragments, unable to process what had happened. Katja screamed, "Victor, run! They're coming!" I got up, ran to the vehicle, and got in. Max, at the wheel, floored the gas. We tore out of the alley under fire. Bullets hammered the chassis. The rear window shattered, but we escaped. We reached the evacuation point on the outskirts of the city. A helicopter was waiting. We climbed aboard and lifted off. Damascus lay burning, dying below. Leon was bleeding out. The medic on board tried to stop the bleeding, but the bullet had hit an artery. 20 minutes into the flight, his heart stopped. We lost him. We lost the artifact. The operation was a failure. When we returned to base, I was summoned by the department commander, Colonel Andrew Sokolov, a gray-haired man in his 60s with cold blue eyes and a face etched with wrinkles. A veteran, a man without fear or regret. He sat at his desk, staring at me with a long, level gaze, then said softly, "Nolan, you're a good operative, one of the best. But you lost the artifact and you lost a man. That is unacceptable." "Sir, the shooting started. A grenade." I didn't have time to react. He cut me off. "Excuses don't matter. The result matters. You failed the operation." I remained silent. I knew he was right from a military logic standpoint. The result is more important than the circumstances. That's what they taught us. Sokolov continued. "You're tired, Victor. Combat fatigue. I've seen it before in other operatives. You need a break. 2 months leave. Then we'll decide if you return to active duty." I left his office with one thought. I wouldn't be coming back. I couldn't serve a system where human lives and millennia of history meant less than a successful after-action report. A week later, I submitted my resignation. Sokolov accepted it without a word, just a nod. "You're right. Officially, you'll be discharged due to medical reasons. Forget everything you saw and did in Sentinel. This information is classified forever." A month later, I received the documents. Discharged for health reasons, limited duty status, no mention of the Sentinel department or the Ghost team. Officially, I had served in a regular police unit guarding cultural sites. Nothing secret, nothing special. After my discharge, I wandered the country for 6 months. Boston, Chicago, New Orleans. I lived off my savings, looking for work. I tried being a security guard, a driver, a warehouse worker. Nothing stuck. Everything seemed petty, meaningless. I drank heavily, trying to drown out the voices in my head, the faces of the dead, the faces of those I couldn't save. Nightmares. I woke up in a cold sweat, grabbing for a non-existent weapon. During the day, I walked around like a zombie, empty inside. Then I met Annabelle. She worked as a gallery guide at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Kind, calm, beautiful. We met at an exhibition of Byzantine icons. She was talking to a group of tourists about the history of early religious painting. Her voice was soft, passionate. I stood aside, listening. After the tour, I approached her and asked a question about tempera painting technique. She was surprised that someone was interested in such detail. We started talking. It turned out we had common interests: art, history, restoration. We started dating. I didn't tell her about my past. I just said I had been in law enforcement, guarding museums, and had resigned to look for a new job. She didn't push or ask unnecessary questions, simply accepting me as I was. Annabelle suggested I try art restoration. She said I had steady hands, a calm nature, and knowledge of art, everything needed for the profession. I enrolled in restorer courses at an art academy. I studied for a year. It turned out I liked working with paints, brushes, and old icons. There was logic, there was a result, there was meaning. You restore what time has broken, returning beauty to the world. After the courses, I got my certificate and started taking commissions. First, small jobs, cleaning darkened icons, strengthening flaking paint, restoring lost fragments. Then the jobs became more serious, restoring murals in old churches, conserving museum exhibits. A year later, Annabelle and I got married. A modest ceremony at City Hall. A few friends, Annabelle's colleagues from the museum. We celebrated afterward at a local cafe. A simple celebration. Annabelle moved into the apartment I was renting on the Lower East Side. She turned the apartment into a home. She hung curtains, put flowers on the windowsills, bought soft throw pillows. The place came alive, becoming warm. She never asked about the scars on my body. She saw the old knife wounds, the bullet marks, the burns, but she didn't ask questions. Only once, when I woke up from a nightmare, drenched in a cold sweat, she hugged me, held me close, and said, "Hush, Vic. You're safe here." The past was behind me. I believed her. I wanted to believe it. A year later, Leo was born. A small bundle with grey eyes and dark hair. I held him in my arms at the hospital and thought, for the first time in my life, I created something instead of destroying it. For the first time, I gave life instead of taking it. We lived 8 happy years together. Work, evenings at home, walks with Leo, trips to Annabelle's parents' house outside the city. It all ended in an instant. The BQE accident. The tractor trailer that lost control. Annabelle was gone. Leo was 4. I was left alone with my son. The first few months were hell. I didn't know how to explain to a 4-year-old that mommy wasn't coming back. How to cope with my own grief while being strong for my son. How to live on when there was emptiness inside. But gradually, life stabilized. Work, home, son. The simple routine that saves you from madness. 6 years passed. 6 years of a quiet, peaceful life. No trouble, no conflict. Just the ordinary life of an ordinary man in a big city. But this morning, everything changed. Someone shoved my son onto the tracks. Deliberately. Professionally. It was not an accident. It was attempted murder. Or a warning. Someone needed me to know they could get to me through my child. I sit in my room holding the Ghost Team ID, looking at the photo of my younger self. Cold eyes, a sharp jawline, a military haircut. This man was a weapon. He killed efficiently, silently, without hesitation. For 10 years, I tried to bury him, to become someone else. A restorer, a father, an ordinary person. But the past came back. And now I have to remember who I was to protect the one person who means more to me than life itself. I picked up the pistol and checked the magazine. 8 rounds. 2 more magazines in the box. 24 rounds. Enough. I tucked the pistol into the holster on my belt and covered it with my jacket. I strapped the knife sheath to my calf beneath my jeans. I put the radio in my jacket pocket. I turned the radio on. The channel was encrypted. The frequency was known only to former Sentinel operatives. I pressed the transmit button and spoke softly. Shadow on the line. Anyone hear me? Respond. Silence. About 30 seconds. Then a crackle in the speaker. A male voice. Familiar. Shadow, this is Wolf. Haven't heard your voice in a long time. Thought you buried that radio forever. Wolf was Ike Semenov's call sign, one of the Ghost Team operatives. We served together for 4 years. A good fighter, a reliable comrade. After I resigned, he continued to serve for 2 more years. Then he left too, opening a security agency in New York. We talk occasionally, meeting once a year to toast the fallen. Wolf, I need help. Urgent. What happened? This morning, someone pushed my son onto the subway tracks. Professional job, clean. The man vanished into the crowd. I saved Leo, but it was a warning or an assassination attempt. Silence. Then Ike spoke slowly. Shadow, Are you sure it wasn't an accident? I'm sure. I saw how he acted. Deliberate shove, cold eyes, controlled exit. He's a professional. Damn. Okay. Where are you now? Home. Lower East Side, Grand Street. Stay put. Don't go anywhere. I'll be there in 40 minutes. I need the surveillance footage from the subway. East Broadway Station. This morning, 7:45 a.m. Do you have contacts in the Transit Security Division? I do. I'll get the recordings. I turned off the radio. I left the room. Leo was still asleep on the living room couch, covered by the blanket. His face was peaceful, his breathing steady, a deep, childlike sleep. I sat in the armchair nearby and watched him. This child is my life. Everything I have left of Annabelle. Everything I live for. If someone thinks they can use him to get to me, they're wrong. I will protect Leo at any cost, even if it means returning to the darkness I ran from 10 years ago. I sat in the armchair, waiting for Ike. 40 minutes stretched endlessly. I considered who might be behind the attempt. There were several options. First, enemies from the past. In 8 years with the Ghost team, I eliminated many people. Artifact dealers, corrupt officials, militants. Every one of them had families, friends, associates. Someone might have been looking for me all these years. Found me. Decided to take revenge through my child. Second, someone from my former Sentinel colleagues. The department was officially disbanded 3 years ago due to budget cuts. Unofficially, it was because of a corruption scandal. Several high-ranking officials were caught selling confiscated artifacts on the black market. The investigation uncovered an entire network, but not everyone was caught. Some went underground, continuing their criminal activity. Maybe they're afraid I know too much. Decided to preemptively take me out. Third, entirely new enemies. Maybe I accidentally stumbled upon something important during my restoration work. Saw something I shouldn't have seen. Collectors dealing in stolen art. Don't like witnesses. 30 minutes. A knock at the door. I looked through the peephole. Ike Semenoff was standing on the landing. Tall, broad-shouldered, close-cropped grey hair, a sports jacket, jeans, a backpack slung over his shoulder. I opened the door. Ike stepped inside, shaking my hand firmly. Vic, long time no see. Sorry it has to be under these circumstances. I closed the door and led him into the kitchen, quietly so as not to wake Leo. Ike took off his backpack and pulled out a laptop and a flash drive. The camera footage, he said. Got it through a contact at Transit Security. East Broadway Station, downtown platform. Morning, 7:30 to 8 o'clock a.m. All 4 cameras. He opened his laptop and inserted the flash drive. The video appeared on the screen. 4 windows simultaneously. 4 angles of the platform. I saw myself and Leo standing near the edge. I saw the crowd around us. Ike fast-forwarded to the crucial moment. 7:45 a.m. He slowed the playback. I watched intently. The man in the black cap appeared on the platform a minute before the train arrived. He came up the escalator, walking purposefully toward us, pushing through the crowd, stopping behind Leo. 2 seconds. The shove. Leo fell. I jumped after him. The man turned around and walked back toward the escalator. Calmly, unhurriedly, he went upstairs and disappeared. Ike switched to another camera, the station vestibule camera. The man exited the subway, climbed the stairs to the street, turned right, and walked out of the frame. The last camera, a street camera near the subway entrance. The man walked along the sidewalk, stopped at a black sedan, and got into the front passenger seat. The car drove off. Ike paused the video, zooming in on the image. The license plate was blurred. Dirt on the plate. Professionals. I looked at the man's face. The enlarged image wasn't very clear, but enough to remember the features. Caucasian, mid-30s to 40s, square jaw, short haircut, a scar above his left eyebrow. Military bearing, possibly an ex-military or intelligence operative. Ike looked at me. Recognize him? No, first time seeing him. Could be a mercenary. I'll send the images to my contacts at the FBI. We'll try to run them through the databases. But if he's a pro, he's probably working under an alias. Finding him will be tough. I nodded. Thanks, Ike. I appreciate the help. He closed the laptop and looked at me seriously. Vic, what are you going to do? Find who's behind this? Ike sighed. You've been out of the game for 10 years. Maybe you should go to the police. Let them handle it. I smiled bitterly. The police? Ike, you know how the system works. They'll open a case, spend months gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses. Meanwhile, the person who ordered the hit will either try again or vanish into the shadow forever. I don't have time to wait. I need to move fast. Ike was silent, understanding my logic. Then he spoke softly. If you decide to act, I'm with you. Like the old days. I looked at him gratefully. Thanks, brother. But for now, I only need information. If I need more, I'll let you know. He nodded and stood up. I'll leave the flash drive with you. If I learn anything new, I'll tell you immediately. Take care of yourself and your son. He left. I was alone in the kitchen. I looked at the frozen frame on the laptop screen. The face of the man who pushed my son. Who are you? Who sent you? What do you want from me? Questions without answers. For now. But I would find the answers. I absolutely would. I closed the laptop and went into the living room. Leo was still asleep. I sat next to him, stroking his head. He stirred and opened his eyes. Dad? I'm here, Leo. Everything's fine. What time is it? noon. You slept for almost 3 hours. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. My head hurts. Want some medicine? He nodded. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and took out children's acetaminophen. I brought it to Leo. He took the pill and chased it with water. Dad, what happened this morning? Why did someone push me? I sat beside him, putting an arm around his shoulders. I don't know yet, Leo, but I'll figure it out. I promise. Do you think it was on purpose? I didn't want to frighten him, but I didn't want to lie either. Maybe, but don't worry, I won't let anyone hurt you. He leaned into me. I'm scared, Dad. I know, but I'm right here. I'll always be right here. He was quiet, thinking about something. Then he asked softly, Dad, were you in the military before? I looked at him in surprise. Why do you ask? Well, you jumped onto the track so fast. And you fought those bullies by the school before, remember? I remembered. A year ago, 3 older teenagers cornered Leo and demanded money. I was walking behind him, saw it, and intervened. 3 against 1, but it wasn't a problem for me. I neutralized them in seconds. Not badly, just enough to scare them off. Leo had looked at me with wide eyes then, not understanding how his restorer dad had handled the bullies so easily. I answered honestly. Yes, Leo. I was in the service a long time ago, before you were born. Were you a soldier? Something like that. I protected important things and important people. And now, I'm a restorer. I restore beautiful, old paintings. He nodded, satisfied with the answer. It's good you know how to fight, so you can protect me. Always, Leo. Always. He yawned. I'm still sleepy. Can I go back to sleep? Of course. Lie down. Rest. I'll be right here. Leo lay back down, closed his eyes, and fell asleep a few minutes later. I sat beside him, watching, thinking that I had told him the truth, but not the whole truth. I protected important things, cultural heritage, artifacts, monuments of art. But the methods of protection were far from noble. I killed those who dealt in stolen goods, eliminated those who interfered with operations, and acted in the shadow, leaving no trace. That's why they called me Shadow. I was a ghost who arrived in the darkness and disappeared, leaving nothing but the bodies of my enemies. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I took it out. A message from Ike. Ran the face through the FBI database. Match. Name, Sergei Makarov, 42 years old, former Army intelligence. Discharged 5 years ago. For the last 3 years, listed as wanted for illegal arms trafficking. Possible ties to criminal organizations. Last known location, Brooklyn. Address attached. So, a professional. Former military, tied to crime. The question remained. Who hired him and why? I sent Ike a reply. Thanks. I need the address. He replied, 23 Lepetsk Street, apartment 48, 5-story apartment building in Borough Park. Adapted to a fictional street in a Brooklyn neighborhood. I looked at the address. A plan formed. Tonight, I would go there, find Makarov, ask questions, and find out who was behind him. If I had to use force, I would. The skills hadn't gone anywhere. My body remembered. Muscle memory, reflexes, instincts. It's impossible to forget all that. The day passed slowly. Leo woke up after lunch and ate the soup I'd made. Chicken noodle soup, his favorite. We watched cartoons on TV. I pretended everything was normal. I smiled, joked, and hugged him. But inside was a cold, controlled rage, waiting for nightfall to act. In the evening, the phone rang. An unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello? A man's voice. Unfamiliar, hoarse. Victor Nolan? Yes. Who is this? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you received a warning this morning. Stay away from other people's business. Forget the past, or next time, your son won't survive. Who are you? What do you want? The answer is simple. Stay silent. Don't meddle in what doesn't concern you. Live your quiet life as a restorer, and everything will be fine. He hung up. I stood there, holding the phone, feeling the cold inside me turn to absolute ice. That was it. This wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. Someone wanted me to keep quiet. About what? What did I know that would make them threaten my son? I started recalling the last few weeks. Work in the studio, commissions, clients. Nothing unusual, restoring icons, cleaning murals, conserving darkened paintings. Routine work. But one detail surfaced. 3 weeks ago, I got a commission from a private collector, a man named Alexander Crawford. A wealthy businessman, owner of a chain of home improvement stores, brought in a 15th century icon for restoration. The icon of Our Lady of Kazan. An old work, tempera on wood, darkened varnish, flaking paint. He asked me to clean it, strengthen the paint layer, and restore the lost fragments. He paid well. $1,000 upfront for the job. I agreed and took the icon to the studio. The work took 2 weeks. Careful, painstaking. First, I softened the darkened varnish with a special compound, gradually removing the old lacquer. Beneath it, a bright, almost undamaged painting was revealed. Surprisingly good preservation for a 300-year-old icon. Too good. I began examining the paint under the microscope. Pigments, binders, application technique, and discovered an inconsistency. The pigments were modern, synthetic. The binder was acrylic, not egg tempera. The panel was old, genuine 15th century oak. But the painting was a modern forgery, a very high quality one. Someone had taken an old panel, applied new paint, artificially aged it, and covered it with darkened varnish. The icon looked antique, but was actually painted less than 10 years ago. I called Crawford and told him my findings. I said the icon was fake. He should know about it. Maybe his seller had cheated him. Crawford listened in silence. Then he said in a cold tone, "Nolan, you're mistaken. The icon is authentic. I have all the appraisals. Just finish the work as agreed." I insisted. "Mr. Crawford, I'm a professional. I've seen hundreds of icons. This is a fake. Synthetic pigments, modern binder. Someone cheated you." He raised his voice. "Nolan, I didn't hire you for an appraisal. I hired you for restoration. Do your job and stay out of other people's business. Understood?" I felt then that something was wrong. His reaction was too sharp, too nervous, but I didn't argue. I said I would finish the work as agreed. I finished 2 days later. Crawford came, picked up the icon, paid the remainder, and left without saying goodbye. I thought at the time that I had just wounded his pride. No one likes to admit they've been cheated. I forgot about it. Until today. Now everything was clear. Crawford was dealing in fake icons, selling them as antiques, making huge money from it. Collectors pay millions of dollars for genuine old icons. I accidentally uncovered his scheme. He was scared I would tell someone. He decided to silence me, threatening me through my son. Logical, cruel, effective. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. I am not the man to be intimidated by threats. I am the man who used to be the threat. That evening, once Leo was asleep, I got ready to leave. I changed into dark clothes, black jeans, a black turtleneck, a dark blue jacket, a black knit cap. I checked my weapons. The Makarov pistol was loaded. A round in the chamber. The safety was on. The knife in its sheath on my calf. Gloves in my pocket. A flashlight. My phone with geolocation disabled. The radio on the encrypted channel. Everything was ready. I left the apartment quietly, went down the stairs, and stepped out onto the street. The night was cold and moonless. The sky was covered with clouds. Perfect weather for what I was about to do. I walked to the East Broadway subway station, went down to the F line, and rode it to the end of the line, Coney Island. From there, I took a bus to the Borough Park neighborhood. The whole journey took about 40 minutes. The bus was nearly empty. A couple of drunk guys in the back, an old lady with a shopping cart, a teenager with headphones. No one noticed me. Just a man in dark clothing, going about his business. I got off at the stop near Lipetsk Street, a working-class neighborhood, Soviet-era apartment buildings, gray, dilapidated, with cracked walls, adapted to a blue-collar area, aging brick apartment complexes, run down, with peeling paint. The streets were poorly lit. Many of the streetlights were out. I walked along the sidewalk, counting buildings. Building 23. A 5-story structure, gray, peeling paint. The entrances weren't secured, no intercom. I went inside. The staircase was dirty, smelling of urine and tobacco. Graffiti covered the walls. A typical apartment complex in a working-class neighborhood. I went up to the 4th floor. Apartment 48. The door was metal, with 2 locks. I put my ear to the door and listened. Silence. Either no one was home or they were asleep. I checked the time. 10:30 p.m. I took the lockpicks out of my pocket. Old picks from my time with the ghost team. I picked the first lock in 2 minutes, the second in 3. The door opened silently. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and found myself in a dark entryway. The air smelled of tobacco, stale laundry, and alcohol. I pulled out the flashlight and turned it on. A narrow beam illuminated the hallway. To the left, the bathroom door. To the right, the kitchen. Straight ahead, 2 doors. One was ajar. I could see a bed and a person sleeping on it. I drew the pistol and took the safety off. I moved silently toward the door and looked inside. The room was small and cluttered. A bed against the wall, a man on it. The face was familiar. Sergei Makarov, the one who shoved Leo, was sleeping on his back, snoring. Drunk. An empty vodka bottle and an ashtray full of cigarette butts were on the nightstand next to the bed. Clothes were scattered on the floor. I could make out the shape of a pistol under the pillow. A professional, even drunk, sleeps with a weapon close at hand. I approached the bed silently. With one fluid motion, I snatched the pistol from under the pillow and pressed the muzzle of mine to Makarov's head. He woke up instantly. His eyes snapped open. His hand reached for where his pistol should have been. But it was empty. He froze, looking at me, recognizing me. His face went white. "Nolan," he croaked. I nodded. "Makarov, we need to talk. Quietly. No sudden moves. Otherwise, I'll pull the trigger before you can even scream." He nodded slowly, sitting up on the bed, leaning his back against the wall, hands in sight. A professional knows how to act when there's a gun to his head. I sat on the chair opposite the bed, keeping the pistol aimed at him. "Why did you push my son onto the tracks?" Makarov was silent, assessing me, weighing his options: lie, tell the truth, or stay silent. I spoke coldly. "You have 3 seconds. Then I start shooting. First in one knee, then the other, then the elbows, until you tell me the truth. 1, 2. Okay, he said quickly. "I'll talk. I was hired. They gave me money. A photo of your son, the school address. They told me to scare you. Not to kill. Just to scare. Who hired you? I don't know. Everything went through a middleman. A phone, cash, no names. I don't believe you. You're a professional. You know the rules. You never take a contract without knowing the client." Makarov sighed. "Fine. The client is a rich guy, a businessman, deals in antiques. Didn't give a name, but I saw him once when I picked up the deposit. He drove a black Mercedes. I remembered the license plate. Wrote it down just in case. Tell me the number." He rattled off the plate number. I recorded it on my phone. "What else did he say?" "He said you accidentally found out something about his business, that you could cause trouble. He needed to silence you, scare you through your kid. If that didn't work, eliminate you and the kid, but start with a warning." Logical, cruel. I looked at Makarov. He was ex-military, a mercenary, a criminal, but right now he was just a pathetic drunk who sold his skills for money. "How much did they pay you?" $100,000. Half up front, half after the job. "Did you complete the job?" "Yes." I called the client, told him. He said, "Good. Wait for further instructions." "What instructions?" "If Nolan doesn't back off, eliminate him and the kid. Make it look like an accident. Apartment fire, gas leak, something like that." I felt the cold inside me turn to absolute zero. This man planned to kill me and my son for money, without hesitation. I could shoot him right now. One bullet to the head. Quietly, quickly, professionally. He deserved to die. But I made a vow 10 years ago, no more killing. Only if there's no other way. Right now, there was another way. I needed Makarov alive as a witness, as the link leading to the client. I pulled out my phone and called Ike. He answered after the first ring. Shadow, what's up? Wolf, I need help. Address, 23 Lipetsk Street, apartment 48. Come with your guys. Need to pick up a man, take him to a safe house, and hold him for questioning. Got it. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up. I looked at Makarov. You're coming with my men. You'll stay quiet until I deal with your client. If you try to run, I'll kill you. If you try to contact the client, I'll kill you. If you make one wrong move, I'll kill you. Understand? He nodded. Understood. Nolan, I was just doing a job. Nothing personal. I know. But you touched my child. That makes it personal. Be thankful I didn't kill you on the spot. You won't get a second chance. I sat on the chair, keeping the gun aimed at Makarov. 20 minutes crawled by. He didn't move, didn't speak. A professional knows when to be silent. Finally, a knock at the door. I opened it. Ike stood in the doorway. Behind him were two men, both powerfully built, in dark clothing. Former Sentinel operatives. Ike nodded to me. Vic, we're covered. Good. Take him. Get him to your safe house. Keep him contained. No force. Just hold him. Ike and his men entered the apartment. One of them handcuffed Makarov and led him into the hallway. The second man quickly searched the apartment, collecting Makarov's documents, phone, and weapon. Ike came over to me. What's next? Next, I'm going to the client. I have his car's license plate number. Run it through your channels. Ike took out his phone, called someone, spoke briefly, and gave the number. A minute later, he got the answer. The car is registered to Alexander Ivanovich Crawford, 48 years old, CEO of a company called BuildMart. Residential address, Pelham Manor, New York. Estate number 12. Adapted to a fictional estate in an affluent New York suburb. I nodded. I know the man. He brought me the icon for restoration. I found out it was fake. He got scared I'd expose his business. He decided to silence me. Ike looked at me seriously. Vic, be careful. If he's a rich businessman, he'll have security, connections, money. Attacking him at his home is dangerous. I know. But I don't have a choice. He threatened my son. As long as he's alive and free, Leo is in danger. Ike sighed. Okay. Need backup? No, I'll handle it myself. You've already done enough. Guard Makarov. He's the key witness. Ike nodded. He'll be safe. Call me if anything happens. He left with his men and Makarov. I was alone in the apartment. I quickly searched it again, looking for anything useful. On a table in the living room, I found a notebook. I flipped through the pages. Addresses, phone numbers. One entry caught my eye. Crawford, 100K. Nolan job. Date, time. Next to it, a phone number. I took a picture of the page. Evidence. I left the apartment, went down the stairs, and stepped out onto the street. The night had grown colder. A light rain was falling. I walked to the bus stop, took the bus to the subway, then rode the subway back to the center of Manhattan. I switched to the 1 train and rode it to the end of the line, then took a cab to Pelham Manor. The whole trip took an hour. I arrived at the estate around 1:00 a.m. An elite, gated community. A high fence around the perimeter. Guards at the entrance, security cameras. Impossible to enter through the main gate. I needed another way. I walked the perimeter of the community. On the north side, the fence bordered a forest, dense woods, pine and birch trees. The fence here was lower, only 7 feet. Fewer cameras, maybe a weak point. I entered the woods and approached the fence, inspecting it. Cameras were mounted on poles every 50 yards, but there were dead zones between them. If I moved quickly and silently, I could slip through unnoticed. I put on my gloves, took the rope out of my backpack, made a loop at the end, and tossed it over the fence. The loop caught. I pulled myself up, climbed over the fence, and dropped down on the other side. I landed silently on the soft grass. I looked around. No one. Security hadn't noticed. I pulled out the community map Ike had sent to my phone. Estate number 12 was in the center. I moved from tree to tree, bush to bush, silently, like a shadow. The skills came back instantly. My body remembered every movement. I reached the house in 10 minutes. A 2-story modern cottage. Large panoramic windows, white walls, black roof. A black Mercedes, the one, was parked in the driveway. The license plate matched. I circled the house. First floor, living room, kitchen, study. No lights on. Second floor, bedrooms. A faint light was on in one window. Someone was awake. I found the back door leading into the kitchen. The door was glass, locked with a standard deadbolt. I pulled out my lockpick and opened it in a minute. The door swung open silently. I stepped inside. The kitchen was large and modern. Marble countertops, expensive appliances. It smelled of coffee and fresh pastries. Dirty dishes and dinner leftovers were on the table. I went into the living room. A large space, leather sofas, a huge TV on the wall, a fireplace, magazines, a remote control, and a glass with leftover whiskey lay on the coffee table. No one was there. I went upstairs to the second floor. The wooden stairs creaked faintly under my weight. I froze, listening. Silence. I continued up. A hallway with 4 doors upstairs. 3 were closed. 1 was ajar, light spilling out. I approached silently and peeked inside. A study, a large desk, a leather armchair, shelves lined with books and folders. A man sat at the desk, Alexander Crawford. I recognized him. Around 50, heavy-set, balding, wearing a dressing gown. He was looking at his laptop, typing something. A glass of whiskey and an ashtray with a smoking cigar were on the desk nearby. He didn't hear me, completely focused on his work. I drew the pistol, entered the study silently, walked up to the desk, and pressed the muzzle to the back of his head. Crawford froze. His hands hovered over the keyboard. Slowly, he raised his head. He saw my reflection in the laptop monitor. He went pale. "Nolan," he whispered. "Crawford," I nodded. "We need to talk. Don't scream. Don't make any sudden movements. I'm nervous today. I might accidentally pull the trigger." He slowly raised his hands and placed them on the desk, palms down, fingers splayed, showing he wasn't armed. "What do you want?" His voice trembled. "I want you to explain why you ordered my son to be scared." Crawford was silent. His eyes darted around, looking for a way out. But there was no way out. I continued. "Sergei Makarov is with my people. He told us everything. You hired him to push my 10-year-old child onto the tracks. Then you called me and threatened me. Why?" Crawford licked his lips. His voice was quiet, uncertain. I just wanted you to stay out of my business. You found out the icon was a fake. You could have told someone, ruined my reputation. I decided to scare you into silence, I scoffed coldly. Scare me through my child. A clever plan. You only missed one detail. Which one? You didn't know who I really was. Crawford looked at me confused. You're a restorer, aren't you? For the last 10 years. Before that, I was someone else. Someone trained to kill efficiently and silently. Someone they called Shadow. Crawford's face became even paler. Shadow. You're that Nolan from the Sentinel Department. I heard the legends. I thought they were made up. The legends are based on the truth. I am that Nolan, and you made a huge mistake when you touched my son. Crawford started trembling. His lips moved, but no words came out. I continued to speak coldly, methodically. You deal in fake icons, passing them off as antiques. You profit from deceiving collectors. That, in itself, is a crime. But it's not my concern. I wouldn't have gotten involved if you hadn't touched my family. Now, it is my concern. Crawford found his voice, trembling, pathetic. Nolan, I'll pay. How much do you want? 1 million? 2? 5? Name your price. I just got scared that you'd expose the scheme. I didn't think it would come to this. Please, forgive me. I shook my head. Money won't give my son back his peace of mind. He's afraid to leave the house now. Wakes up at night in a cold sweat, having nightmares. You stole his sense of security. Money won't fix that. Then what do you want? I want you to stop your business. Destroy all the fake icons. Return the money to the collectors you defrauded. Confess to your crimes. That's impossible. I'll go to jail. Perhaps, but it's fair. You cheated people, dealt in fakes, and threatened a child. You must face the consequences. Crawford was silent, thinking. Then he spoke softly, calculatingly. And if I refuse? Then I'll turn over all the evidence to the police. I have Makarov's testimony, the security footage, your threats on the phone. Enough to put you away for 10 years. Crawford chuckled nervously. You're bluffing. You have no proof. Makarov won't testify against me. He's a criminal himself. His word is worthless. Maybe, but I have another option. What is it? I will simply kill you here and now. I'll make it look like an accident. You tripped, fell down the stairs and broke your neck. A tragedy. No one will suspect murder. A rich businessman who liked to drink. These things happen. Crawford looked at me terrified, realizing I wasn't joking. Okay, he said quickly. I'll do what you said. I'll stop the business, destroy the fakes, and return the money. Just don't kill me. I have a wife, children. I nodded. I know. You have 2 children, a 15-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son. They go to a private school. Good kids. It would be a shame for them to lose their father, just as it would have been a shame for my son to lose me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Crawford nodded vigorously. I understand. I'll do everything. I promise. Good. You have 1 week. In 1 week, I'll check. If you don't keep your promise, I'll be back. And there will be no talking then. He nodded again. I will. I swear. I stepped back, but I didn't put the pistol away. One more thing. If anything happens to my son or me, if we are touched, even accidentally bumped into on the street, I will know it was you, and I will come for you. Understood? Understood. I won't do anything else. Forget about me. I'll forget about you. I smirked. I won't forget, but I can leave you alone, provided you keep your promise. I holstered the pistol, turned, walked out of the study, went down the stairs, passed through the living room, and left through the back door. I closed it behind me, skirted the house, went back into the woods, climbed over the fence, returned to the road, called a cab, and rode back to the city. The entire operation took 3 hours. Clean, fast, effective. Like the old days. I arrived home around 3 a.m. I went up to the apartment quietly, so as not to wake Leo. He was sleeping in his room, covered by the blanket. His face was peaceful, his breathing steady. I stood in the doorway, watching him. My son, my life, my reason for living. No one would ever touch him again. I went to my room, undressed, put the weapons back in the box, lay down on the couch, and closed my eyes. Sleep didn't come immediately. My mind was still working, analyzing, planning. But gradually, the tension eased. My body relaxed. I fell asleep toward dawn. I woke up at 9 a.m. to the sound of dishes clanking in the kitchen. I got up and went out. Leo was standing in the kitchen, pouring himself some juice. He saw me and smiled. "Morning, Dad. You slept late. You usually wake up earlier." "Morning, Leo. I went to bed late last night, working on a commission." He nodded and sat down at the table. "I made you breakfast, cheese sandwiches and tea." I looked at the table. Indeed, neatly sliced sandwiches were on a plate. The teapot was freshly brewed. My heart swelled with tenderness. "Thanks, buddy. You're a good man." We ate breakfast together. Leo talked about what he wanted to do today. Call his friends, play video games, watch a new movie. Ordinary kid plans. I listened, nodding and smiling, trying not to think about what I had done last night. The pistol at a man's head, the threats, the man held captive by my people. Right now, I was just a father having breakfast with his son. An ordinary man. On an ordinary day. After breakfast, the phone rang. An unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello?" A man's voice. Familiar. "Nolan, it's Crawford." "Yes?" "I did what you told me. I contacted the buyers and offered refunds. Most agreed. I've collected the fake icons in a warehouse. I'll destroy them today. Tomorrow, I'm going to the police with a confession." "Good. I'll check. If you lie, you know what will happen." "I know. I'm not lying. I just want this to end. I want to go back to a normal life." I scoffed. "Normal life is built on honesty, Crawford. You lost that when you started cheating people. Now you have to answer for it." He sighed heavily. "I understand. Nolan, I do want to say one thing. I'm sorry for what happened to your son. I didn't think it would come to that. I just got scared I'd lose everything." Fear is a poor advisor. I hung up. I didn't want to hear his excuses. What was done couldn't be undone. But at least he understood his mistake. At least he was trying to make amends. That was enough. The phone rang again. This time, it was Ike. "Shadow, Makarov is being quiet. He gave a statement. I recorded everything on video. Want a copy?" "Yes, send it. It might come in handy. Also, he needs to be handed over to the police. Anonymously. Let them deal with him officially." "Will do. How about you? All settled?" "Yes. The client got scared. He promised to fix everything. We'll see if he keeps his promise. If not, you know where to find me." Ike laughed briefly. "Always ready to help, brother. Like the old days. I hope the old days don't come back completely. I just want to live peacefully, raise my son, and work." "I get it. But if you need anything, you know, one call." "Thanks, Wolf." I hung up. The day passed peacefully. Leo played on the computer. I watched the news and cooked dinner. Chicken soup, buckwheat with meatballs. Simple, home-cooked food. We ate together, talking about baseball, school, and plans for the weekend. An ordinary day for an ordinary family. In the evening, the phone rang. This time, a familiar number. Police Captain David Soloviev. We've known each other for years. I sometimes consult with him on cases involving art theft, helping to authenticate objects and assess their value. Nolan, good evening. I have a case that might interest you. I'm listening, Captain Soloviev. This morning, we found a man tied up in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Borough Park. Along with him was an anonymous note. The note said this man, a mercenary, attempted to murder a child in the subway the day before yesterday. A flash drive with a video confession was attached. We checked the subway camera footage. Everything matches up. This man did push a boy onto the tracks. We opened a criminal case and arrested him. He's giving a statement now, naming the client, Alexander Crawford, a businessman, owner of Build Mart. Have you heard of him? I paused, choosing my words carefully. I have. He brought me an icon for restoration a few weeks ago. I discovered it was a fake and told him. He reacted nervously. I didn't think it would come to this. Soloviev was silent for a second. Victor, the boy who was pushed, is that your son? Yes. My son, Leo. Understood. Will you file an official statement? I'll come to the precinct tomorrow and give my testimony. Good. We'll arrest Crawford this evening. We have enough evidence. The mercenary's testimony, the camera footage, witnesses. Plus, earlier today, Crawford filed a statement confessing to fraud, dealing in fake icons. Strange coincidence, isn't it? Very strange, I agreed. Soloviev sighed. Victor Nolan, I know who you were before you became a restorer. I read your classified bio when I ran you through the databases a few years ago. Ghost Team, Sentinel Department. Impressive resume. I didn't comment, waiting for him to continue. Soloviev went on. I won't ask how the mercenary ended up tied up in a warehouse with a video confession. Officially, we'll assume his conscience got the better of him. He came forward and turned himself in. Unofficially, I understand you handled the situation yourself. I don't approve of vigilantism, but I understand the motive. If my son were in danger, I would do the same thing. Thank you for your understanding, David. Don't mention it. Just one request. Don't take the law into your own hands again. Let the system work. If there are problems, contact me. We'll try to help officially. Agreed? Agreed. I hung up. I sat in the kitchen, looking out the window. Evening in New York. Lights in the windows of neighboring buildings. Sparse traffic on the roads. It was over. Crawford was arrested. Makarov was in custody. Leo was safe. Justice had triumphed. Or had it? Was this justice? I invaded a man's home, threatened him with a weapon, and forced him to do what I wanted. Technically, I committed several crimes, but the system couldn't protect my son. It wouldn't have been fast enough. While the police gathered evidence, Makarov could have tried again. Crawford could have hired another hitman. Time was against me. I had to act myself. I got up and went to the living room. Leo was sitting on the couch, watching a cartoon. I sat down next to him. He leaned against me, still watching the screen. I hugged him, feeling the warmth of his body, hearing his calm breathing. My son. Alive, healthy, safe. It was worth returning to the past for this. It was worth becoming the shadow again. But only for one night. Only to protect the person I loved most. A week passed. Life returned to its usual rhythm. Work in the studio, meetings with clients, restoring icons and murals. Leo went to school, played with friends, and played baseball. The nightmares gradually receded. He woke up less often at night, smiled more often. A child's mind is resilient. The main thing is that he feels safe. He knows his dad will protect him from any danger. Crawford was on trial. The charges: grand larceny by fraud, conspiracy to commit murder of a minor. His lawyers were trying to negotiate a plea bargain to lessen the sentence, but the evidence was irrefutable. Makarov's testimony, the camera footage, witness accounts, and Crawford's own confession. The prosecutor demanded 10 years in prison. He would probably get 8, given mitigating factors: the genuine confession, the return of money to the defrauded buyers, no prior convictions. Makarov was also on trial: attempted murder of a child, illegal possession of a weapon, working as a mercenary. He faced 15 years. His lawyers argued that the child survived, and Makarov testified against the client, helping to solve the crime. He would probably get 12 years. A long time. Good riddance. People willing to kill children for money don't deserve freedom. One evening, as I was closing the studio, a car pulled up. A grey sedan with tinted windows. A man in his 60s got out. Grey hair, military posture, cold blue eyes. I recognized him instantly. Colonel Andrew Sokolov, former commander of the Sentinel Department. "Good evening, Nolan." "Good evening, Colonel." He smirked. "You can drop the formality. I've been retired for 5 years. Just Andrew. What brings you here?" He stepped closer, looking at the studio sign. "Restorer of religious paintings. A good profession. Noble. Restoring beauty destroyed by time. I try." He turned, looking at me with a measuring gaze. "I heard you recently returned to your old methods, protecting your son. You handled it professionally, clean, fast, effective, like the old days. I didn't have a choice. The system wasn't fast enough. I understand. I would have done the same thing in your place. That's why I'm here." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and offered it to me. "What is this?" "A proposal. The Sentinel Department was officially disbanded 3 years ago. Unofficially, a part of the structure continues to operate. Different name, different funding, but the same mission. Protecting cultural heritage by any means necessary. We need experienced operatives. People who know how to act in the shadow. You're one of the best, Victor. I'm offering you a chance to come back. Not full-time. Just occasional operations. Excellent pay. A chance to do what you do best." I looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "Andrew, I left that life 10 years ago. I want to stay out of it. I have a son, a job, a peaceful life. I don't want to go back to the darkness." Sokolov nodded. "I understand, but think about it. The world hasn't gotten safer over the years. Criminals continue to rob museums, trade stolen masterpieces, and destroy cultural heritage for profit. Someone has to stop them. You know how to do it. The skills haven't gone anywhere. Your body remembers." I shook my head. "Thanks for the offer, but no. My war is over." Sokolov put the envelope back in his pocket. "As you wish, but if you change your mind, my number is the same. Call any time." He got into the car and drove away. I stood by the studio, watching until the car disappeared around the corner. I walked home, thinking about Sokolov's offer. Part of me wanted to agree. To go back to what I do best, operating in the shadow, protecting culture, stopping criminals. That was my life for 8 years. I was good at it. Better than almost anything else. But another part of me remembered the cost of that life. Constant danger, nightmares, the inability to be honest with loved ones, the necessity of killing, even when you don't want to. That life chips away at your soul, piece by piece, until all that's left is cold professionalism. I chose another path 10 years ago. The path of the restorer. To rebuild, not to destroy. To create beauty, not to bring death. That path gives me peace. The chance to sleep soundly most nights. The chance to be honest with my son. The chance just to live. I don't want to lose that again. Even if the shadow still lives inside me. Even if the skills haven't gone away. Even if my body remembers every move, I choose the light, not the darkness. I choose the life of a restorer, a father, an ordinary man. I arrived home around 8 p.m. Leo was doing his homework at the kitchen table. Notebooks, textbooks, and pencils neatly laid out. He was writing something in his notebook, the tip of his tongue sticking out in concentration. I approached quietly, looking over his shoulder. Math, fractions. How's it going? He looked up and smiled. Okay. Just this one problem I can't figure out. Can you show me how to solve it? Of course. I sat down next to him and explained. We solved the problem together. He understood, nodded, and wrote down the solution. Thanks, Dad. You explain things well. Better than the teacher. I smiled. The teacher is trying. Sometimes you just need a different approach. He finished his homework and put the notebooks into his backpack. Dad, can we go to the movies tomorrow? There's a new superhero film out. Everyone in class has seen it. Of course we can. What time is the showing? 6 o'clock in the evening. Can we make it after school? We can. I'll pick you up from school. We'll go straight to the theater. Hooray! He jumped up, happily hugging me. You're the best dad in the world. I hugged him back, feeling warmth spread through my chest. These simple moments, explaining homework, planning a movie trip, a child's hug, this is real life. This is what's worth living for. That evening, after Leo fell asleep, I sat by the window, looking at the city lights. The lights of a million people. Cars on the roads. People in the windows of neighboring buildings. Everyone living their own life, struggling with their own problems, celebrating their small victories. Most people would never know that people like me exist. People who operate in the shadow, protecting what is dear to them. People willing to break the law to protect their family. People who were weapons but chose to become something else. I'm not proud of what I did in the past. I'm not proud of what I had to do this week. But do I regret it? No. My son is alive. My son is safe. For that, I am willing to become the shadow again, if necessary. But I hope it won't be. I hope I can remain just a restorer, rebuilding the beauty of a broken world. My phone vibrated. A message from Ike. All quiet. Makarov turned over to authorities. Crawford in custody. Your family is safe. Call me if anything happens. Always ready to help. Wolf. I replied briefly. Thanks, brother. Hope I won't need to, but I know you're there. Shadow. I put the phone away. I stood up, went to Leo's room and looked in. He was sleeping, covered up to his chin. His face was peaceful, his breathing steady. Good dreams, I hoped. I walked over quietly and kissed him on the forehead. I whispered, "Sleep well, son. I'll always be here. I'll always protect you." I left the room, closed the door, and went to my own room. I opened the closet and took down the metal box. One last time. Inside were the weapon, the documents, the ghost team patch. Everything that reminded me of the past. I took out the patch and examined the symbol, the silhouette of a man dissolving into the darkness. The shadow. That was me. It's still me, somewhere deep inside. But now, I choose to be someone else. Victor Nolan, restorer, father. The man who restores beauty. I put the patch back in the box. I closed the box and sealed it with tape. I put it back on the top shelf of the closet, deep in the back, away from sight. In case the past ever knocked on the door again. In case the shadow was needed again. But I hoped it wouldn't happen. I hoped the box would remain closed for another 10 years, or forever. I lay down on the couch and closed my eyes, thinking about tomorrow. Picking Leo up from school, going to the movies, watching a superhero film, buying popcorn and Coke, laughing together at the jokes, enjoying the special effects. A simple day for a simple man. That's what I want. That's what I choose. I fell asleep slowly. Dreams came. But this time, they weren't nightmares from the past. This time, the dreams were peaceful. I saw Leo, grown up, happy, successful. I saw myself, old, gray-haired, but content with life. I saw my quiet studio, where I was restoring another ancient icon. I saw the peace I had sought all these years. Maybe they were just dreams. Maybe reality would be different. But now, tonight, I believe everything will be fine. Morning came with the sound of the alarm. 7 a.m. I got up and did my workout. Push-ups, squats, stretching. My body was still in good shape. My muscles remembered the training. I took a shower and got dressed. Ordinary clothes, jeans, a sweater, a jacket. No black, no tactical gear. Just the ordinary clothes of an ordinary man. I made breakfast, oatmeal, toast, and tea. I woke up Leo. He got up reluctantly, but quickly. He remembered the movie night. That was motivation. We ate breakfast together, talking about the upcoming film. Leo recounted the trailers he'd seen online. His eyes shone with excitement. I listened, smiling, sharing his joy. I walked him to school. We walked to the subway and went down to the platform. The same people, the same smell, the same noise. But now, there was no fear. Leo held my hand calmly, not looking around nervously, not flinching at every movement nearby. He was slowly forgetting the nightmare he had lived through. A child's mind is surprisingly resilient, capable of recovering from trauma. The main thing is time, support, and a feeling of security. We reached his school. Leo got off at his station and waved goodbye. "See you tonight, Dad. Don't be late. The movie starts exactly at 6. "I won't be late. I promise. Study hard." "I will." He ran toward the exit, his backpack bouncing on his back. I watched him until he disappeared into the crowd. Then I rode onto my station. I got out, walked to the studio, opened the door, and turned on the light. The smell of turpentine and linseed oil greeted me. A familiar smell. The smell of the work I love. The icon I'd been working on for the last week lay on the workbench. St. Nicholas, the Wonder Worker. 15th century. Tempera on wood. Darkened lacquer. Cracks in the paint layer. Typical work. It requires patience, meticulousness, and attention to detail. I sat down at the workbench, turned on the lamp, put on my magnifying visor, took a thin brush, and began carefully removing the darkened lacquer from the saint's face. The work drew me in. Time flowed unnoticed. Hours, minutes, seconds. My hand moved automatically. My mind concentrated on the smallest details. Every stroke, every movement of the brush. Gradually, a bright painting emerged from under the dark layer. The saint's face. Kind eyes. A soft smile. The master who painted this icon 300 years ago put his soul into it. You could feel it in every line, in every color transition. My job was to preserve that, to restore the original beauty, to allow people to see what people saw 300 years ago. At noon, I took a break, went to the nearby cafe, bought a sandwich and coffee. I sat by the window, watching the street. People walked by, rushing about their business, each with their own story, their own problems, their own joys. No one knew that the man sitting by the window with his coffee had held a gun to another man's head a week ago. No one knew that this quiet restorer had once been an operative in a special unit. That's normal. The past should remain in the past. Secrets should be secrets. It's safer for everyone that way. I returned to the studio and continued my work. By 5 p.m., I finished cleaning the face. The icon was transformed. Bright colors, clear lines, a living expression on the saint's face. The beauty, hidden for centuries under the darkened lacquer, was revealed to the world again. I felt satisfied, a sense of duty fulfilled. This is my real work. Not to destroy, but to restore. Not to bring death, but to bring life back to works of art. I closed the studio and drove to the school to pick up Leo. I arrived at 5:30 p.m. sharp. He was already waiting by the exit, talking to friends. He saw me, waved, said goodbye to the others, and ran over. "Hi, Dad. We made it?" "We made it. 15 minutes to the theater. We'll be on time." We took the subway, then walked to the shopping center. The movie theater was on the 4th floor. I bought the tickets, a large bucket of popcorn, and 2 Cokes. Leo was beaming with happiness. We went into the theater and found our seats. The lights dimmed and the trailers began. Leo leaned forward, watching the screen without blinking. I watched him more than the movie. I saw his eyes shining, heard him laughing at the jokes, flinching during the tense moments. I saw an ordinary, happy child. Not traumatized, not frightened. Just a boy watching a movie with his father. It was worth it. Everything I did was worth it. The movie lasted 2 hours. We left the theater around 9 p.m. Leo was excited, retelling his favorite scenes. "Dad, did you see how he jumped off the skyscraper? And the explosion at the end? It was incredible." I nodded in agreement. It was a really good film. We left the shopping center and walked to the subway. The night city was beautiful. Storefront lights, street musicians, couples on benches. Life was flowing normally. At home, Leo quickly brushed his teeth and changed into his pajamas. I tucked him into bed. He yawned, but was still smiling. "Thanks, Dad. It was the best day." "I'm glad, Leo. Sleep well." He closed his eyes. A few minutes later, his breathing became steady. He was asleep. I sat next to him for a little while longer, watching him, thinking about the man he would grow up to be. I hoped he would be kind, honest, and strong. I hoped he wouldn't have to make the choices I had to make. I hoped his life would be simpler, brighter. I left the room quietly, went to the kitchen, made myself some tea, and sat by the window. My phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. I opened it. "Nolan Sokolov. The offer still stands. Think about it again. The world needs men like you." I looked at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. I blocked the number. My answer hadn't changed. It wouldn't change. I drank my tea slowly, enjoying the silence. The apartment was peaceful. Outside, the occasional car, the distant hum of the city. An ordinary night for an ordinary man. Tomorrow, I'll go back to the studio and continue working on the icon. The day after tomorrow, I'll pick Leo up from school and help him with his homework. On the weekend, we'll go to the stadium and watch a Yankees game. A simple life. A good life. 3 months later, I stood before the finished icon of St. Nicholas. The work was complete. The icon was fully restored. Bright colors, clear lines, every detail in place. The client would pick it up tomorrow, pay good money, leave a grateful review, and recommend me to others. That's how my business works. Quietly, reliably, honestly. Over the last 3 months, life had completely stabilized. Crawford received 8 years. Makarov received 12. Both are serving their sentences. No more threats, no more strange calls, no more suspicious people around. Leo has fully recovered. The nightmares are gone. He's a carefree child again. He does well in school, plays baseball, and hangs out with his classmates. He doesn't even remember that morning nightmare in the subway. A child's memory is flexible. Bad things are forgotten, and good things remain. I've changed too. My dreams are calmer. I wake up less often in the middle of the night. When I do wake up, I fall back asleep quickly. The past is letting go, slowly but surely. Maybe it will never let go completely. Maybe the shadow will always live inside me. But I've learned to live with it. I've learned to be two people at once. The restorer by day, the shadow when necessary. But I hope the necessity won't arise again. In the evening, I was sitting with Leo at the kitchen table. He was drawing something in his sketchbook. I was reading a book on Byzantine art. A quiet family evening. Snow was falling outside. The first snow of the year. New York was covered in a white blanket. Beautiful. Peaceful. Leo looked up from his sketchbook. "Dad, look what I drew." I took the book. On the page was a drawing. Two figures, one tall, one small, an adult and a child, holding hands. Above them, written in uneven child's letters, "My dad is a superhero." I looked at the drawing, feeling something tighten in my chest. Not a superhero, Leo. Just Dad. He shook his head stubbornly. "No, a superhero. You saved me from the train. You always protect me. That makes you a superhero." I hugged him, holding him close. "Okay, I'll be your superhero, always." He went back to his drawing, adding details. I watched him, thinking about the future, about how one day he would learn the truth. Who I was, what I had to do to protect him. How would he react? Would he understand? Would he forgive? I don't know. But when that day comes, I will tell him the truth. The whole truth. That I was the shadow. That I killed people. That I broke the rules. But I did it to protect what was important. Culture, history, and his family. Until then, we just live. Father and son. Restorer and schoolboy. Two ordinary people in a big city with their secrets, their past, and their hope for the future. The snow fell silently outside, covering the city in a white sheet. A new day would come tomorrow. New commissions, new concerns, new joys. And I will meet them not as the shadow, but as Victor Nolan, restorer, father, the man who chose the light.